Welcome into your Cricket Wireless Fantasy Football Update here on getsportsinfo.com. I'm Dan Clasgens. He is James Adams. Talking about the NFC South today, what each team has going on from a fantasy standpoint, some real interesting thoughts to share, and we'll start with the Saints. James, they come out here in week number 5, get their first win of the season. It was a record-breaking night as Drew Brees throws that 48th touchdown pass in consecutive games now. But it's the running backs I want to start talking about. Darren Sproles, Pierre Thomas, Mark Ingram. Add them up together. What do they equal? Fantasy garbage right now. They haven't been very good at all. Darren Sproles in a non-PPR league is proven nearly worthless. Just 17 carries for 91 yards now through 5 games. He hasn't rushed for a touchdown. That's not too surprising. But the passing stats aren't all that great either. He's only catching 235 yards through the air with 2 touchdowns in 5 weeks, not getting it done. Pierre Thomas, he's been a nice play, not a bad guy to have on your bench, but 6.4 fantasy points a week aren't going to get it done. And Mark Ingram, forget about him. Even in a non-PPR league where you thought he'd have some value, he finishes week 5 as fantasy football's 53rd ranked running back. I'm sorry, I'm not trusting any Saints as guys that are going to help me get to the playoffs on my fantasy team.
Well, what I like about the fact that the Saints aren't running the ball very well is the fact that they are throwing the ball quite well. Marquise Colston reaping a lot of the rewards from that. He's 9th in targets in the league in wide receivers, 3rd in points. The Saints are 1-4, just got their first win this weekend. When you're down, you're going to throw the ball a lot. When your team's not very good running the ball, you're going to throw the ball a lot. So Marcus Colston is a guy finally healthy, been able to get on the field for all their games, all 5 so far. He's a guy I'm absolutely in love with fantasy-wise going forward. Another good pass-catching option in that division, Tony Gonzalez. The guy's 36 years old, ancient when it comes to being a good NFL producer outside of the quarterback position, but the guy takes great care of his body, and he's got 47 targets, by far the most in fantasy tight ends. Only one other guy with even 40. He's got 388 yards and 4 touchdowns. But I will caution you, Tony Gonzalez going forward, the 3rd worst matchups for tight ends over the next 5 weeks. But the way he's producing and the way this Atlanta offense is moving, I'm not that worried about it. What else have we got going on in Atlanta, Dan? I think there's some things that you might be worried about.
Well, I'm worried about Jacquizz Rodgers. He's a guy that I targeted and keyed in on as a potential sleeper candidate for this season because Atlanta had expressed getting him more involved in the offense. And as you already alluded to, they're very explosive right now, clicking on all cylinders. And the most frustrating part about this scenario, James, is he's getting snaps. Rodgers is on the football field. It did not parlay into touches, though, in week number 5. He had just 4 touches in that game. He hasn't only found the end zone once all season. And right now I'm starting to rethink my thoughts I had on him originally, looking at him more as a handcuff-only option, maybe a bench player, but a guy that you just really can't trust in your lineup. And, that's what it's all about right now. You have to be able to put people in your lineup and count on them. Moving to Carolina, I'm starting to wonder how much owners can count on wide receiver Steve Smith. He had 2 100-yard games to start the year and looked like he was going to be that top 10 wideout we all thought he was going to be. But since then, over his last 3 games, he's failed to find the end zone. He hasn't broken that 100-yard mark since, and that the way that Panthers passing game's looking right now, the schedule had all the factors in there. I'm not sure Steve Smith's going to end up being a wide receiver 1 on any team. I still think he's a good lineup option. It's just a matter of how far up my rankings I'm willing to put him moving forward. A part of that problem, James, has been the play of quarterback Cam Newton, while good at times, simply too inconsistent.
Yeah, completely inconsistent. And, going back to Steve Smith, you're not the only one concerned about Cam Newton. Steve Smith is too. Talked about it after their Thursday night loss a couple of weeks ago, that his head's just not in it. Cam Newton seems to be a guy who plays with great emotion, and when he's up, he is up. But when he's down, he's way down. He's only got 4 touchdown passes so far this year through 5 games, 5 interceptions. Now, we like Cam Newton because of all the rushing touchdowns he had last year. He does have 3 that kind of help those 4 passing touchdowns along, but by no means is that the kind of production that anyone was hoping for after his miraculous rookie season. Right now, he ranks 9th at a quarterback, so he warrants being a QB1, but nowhere near the top of the list that we thought he would be going into the season. A quarterback who had a great rookie season 2 years ago. Josh Freeman was down last year. We were looking for a bounce back. We're not really seeing very much of that in Tampa Bay right now. He is 31st in fantasy points for quarterbacks, only one worse than him out of the starting 32. Freeman has 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. But Josh Freeman does have this going for him. He has got the best quarterback schedule over the next 5 weeks. So while you can't count on him as a QB1, he could be a guy who fills in for you in a bye week over these next couple of weeks. But Josh Freeman, all the hype after year 1 with him seems to be just that. He had a great season and nothing to see from it after last year and the first 4 games this year. And finally in Tampa Bay, Dan, I think you got one more guy we want to look at in this disappointing 1-3 team.
Yeah, you talk about what Freeman did as a rookie and all the excitement surrounding him. The real excitement this year surrounded rookie Doug Martin, but the Bucs running back has yet to deliver on the hype, James. He's had a few decent efforts, and he's still involved in this offense. But until they can get that passing game going, opponents are really locking down on him. And while that schedule is favorable for Freeman, it's equally as favorable, not maybe to the same extent, but some appealing matchups ahead. I think Martin's still going to bounce out of it. I like him as a flex play in nearly any lineup. An RB2, low-end RB2, in non-PPR leagues, a little higher-end RB2 in leagues where you get points for receptions. But at the end of the day, he has to start producing. You can't live on potential for right now. He could be a guy that maybe if you own him and you're getting impatient, maybe shop him around. The value is all in the eye of the beholder. There's no telling what he could bring back. Right now, your guess is as good as mine. That's all the time we have for this week. Be sure to catch James, myself, and Stephanie Theobald Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. It's Fox Sports 1360. It's Cricket Wireless Fantasy Football Game Day. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter at getsportsinfo, like us on Facebook, and check out our website, getsportsinfo.com.